Well, hello, hello. How are you?
Good.
Good.
How
How
are
are
you?
you doing?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you on with us today. When we first saw the trailer, we are like, "Oh, this is going to be good." And it's just like with the music, it's impossible not to feel something, not to learn something, and uh, and you gotta be just overjoyed to bring this to the world, right?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah, this is an exciting time, but so fun to work on. But I can imagine, even though you had a decent amount of time to work with, and I can imagine this being done right in a very short form. There's probably still so much left that we haven't seen, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor. Obviously, we
Hmm.
had to try to condense this really sprawling history down to 4 hours and chart the evolution of not just gospel music, but also Black preaching, and try to
Hmm.
get all those key characters in there. So it wasn't easy. And so I hope we don't get any folks being like, how come you didn't talk about, my favorite person, singer X or my favorite preacher Y? We tried, y'all.
Yeah. Hey, as long as you didn't get a lightning bolt coming down on you, you're doing fine. That one you can't do anything
Exactly.
about. Yeah, but they're probably. I mean, assuming you grew up in the church and it's a big part of you, like I did, you feel a certain sense of responsibility to get it right, and it's not that hard if you have a love for it. It's in you, but there's probably some sort of pressure, right?
There is. I mean, the pressure is what stories to tell. We want
Mhm.
to tell a cohesive story that can transition from 1 hour to the next other hour to, the final hour. And you want to make sure that you are hitting those marks. I mean, like Shayla said, we'll probably left some people off of people's favorite list. However, there are some key people and also some unsung heroines and
Mhm.
heroes that we want to be intentional in telling that story. And that's as right as we can be. It's just
Mhm.
being true to just what gospel is, what it's meant across the era, starting from 1930s to the 1940s, 70s, and present day.
Mhm. Well, and you probably even discovered some new music and some things that you probably like. How did I never hear this, or how did I not know this story? Right? Which was the one that kind of just floored you the most because there's so much there.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Oh man. Where I mean, to me, I think I grew up Catholic, so the music, not to knock the Catholic Church, the music is not that rousing. So this was pretty fun for me to explore this series. But to me, the person who I actually didn't know their story that much and who is kind of like a zealot and kind of appears in all these places is James Cleveland.
Mm,
He's the person who kind of bridges the Chicago origination story of gospel music and then sort of lays the groundwork for the future folks. He's a protege of Thomas A. Dorsey. He's going
mm,
shopping for Mahalia Jackson. He's mentoring Aretha Franklin and working with her father. And then, inspiring and offering workshops for folks like Kirk Franklin and all of the
mm,
musicians that kind of emerge in the 80s and 90s. So he's the person who I think really is the story of gospel in some ways, because he connects so many dots and he passes the torch from all these different generations. So I didn't know that much about his story, and so it was really interesting to be able to dig into that a little bit.
I
mhm,
would say Sally Martin. She
mm,
is the person behind the scenes who is really making gospel and taking gospel to the next level. I mean, by the time she's with Martin and Morris, the publishing company she formed with Kenneth Morris, they're like the top gospel selling publishing company in the country. And she understood the economics of it. She understood. I mean, she helped Dorsey. That was where she first started cutting her teeth. She first was singing, then she stopped singing. Like, well, she still sung, but not, she
yeah.
focused on her one of her strings, which was business, and just really understood the financial aspect of it, that you can make a living off gospel. And she also
Mhm,
understood the agency and power of Black artists owning their content
yeah.
and publishing their content. So she was someone I never heard of her name. or really knew, you know, just what she had contributed to what a lot of people even are using today as a blueprint of publishing and printing your music.
Hmm. So now when people see this and they think, okay, well, you know, I got a story to tell, or there's a story I want to tell, you know, looking at this because, you know, it looks so good. It looks like you make it look easy, but it's not easy to do, to take on a project like this. So what advice would each of you give to somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps and tell a great story?
Have a great team.
Yeah.
We did not do this alone. I mean, there's many people who are were instrumental in really making this series what it is. You know, Shayla and I, we have the privilege of leading a team where we're thinking the creative aspect, but we also have some incredible producers that, you know, Eric and Chelsea, who are also just instrumental in and with our interviews. You know, we had, you know, some really strong people on the archival team who were helpful and instrumental in finding some of those gems that you see on the screen. And those are gems because you got to dig for them. They know where to look, they know who to ask. And I would say just, and make sure you have a good story. You know, that's the biggest thing. Because if you don't have a really good story or a strong story, then, you know, having a team with it won't really make it fly.
Mm-hmm. Will you say the same thing, Shayla?
Yeah, Stacey took the words out of my mouth. It's definitely the key to, you know, filmmaking is a collaborative sport. You know, if you're a writer or even a musician, sometimes it's like a solo thing, but filmmaking is a collaboration, and not just the people in front on screen or our host, you know, our consummate host, who's incredible, Professor Gates, but certainly everybody from editors to composers to musicians to like the people who just do all the stuff that like helps this thing run, is the thing that I think people pay the least amount of attention to when these projects come out. So, you know, we're really grateful to have the support of all of those folks and everybody pushing to work in the same direction and just create something entertaining but also meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Well said. So speaking of a collaborative sport, my co-host Drew Pearson, NFL legend, caught the Hail Mary. Want me to make sure that I ask both of you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Interesting.
I can be vague about this because there's names involved.
Yes, yes.
It was at a moment in my career where I needed to go to the next level. And I was not granted that opportunity. So I saw that window, and I pushed for it. This is pretty vague. And the parties involved didn't really see it coming, but once I was there and in that position, they had to acknowledge it. So sometimes you just have to put yourself right in front of people, jump in front of, you know, that moving target, and they see you. Maybe that's not a good analogy to use, but you know.
No, that's perfect.
For me, I think it was definitely, you know, I grew up in a family of, you know, auto workers and nurses and cops. So for them, it's like, get the good job with the pension and stick with it until you kind of die. So the idea of being an artist or being an independent anything is just like not what you do. So for me, the biggest leap of faith I think I took was walking away from a sort of like steady, kind of stable kind of job with these news organizations that, you know, I think most people would be grateful to have and excited to have and have a career at these places. And I just felt I wanted to do something different. And so I was lucky to fall in with the right people, as we've already mentioned, and have a really great network to kind of fall back on to help navigate this sort of documentary space, and been lucky to work on some really incredible projects. So it's worked out so far. So good.
Yeah. I love that. You know, part of that is that success mindset that we have to talk about, even though we're not feeling it sometimes, or sometimes it's a little bit tougher. Is there something that you told yourself that kind of kept you through going through this, even though you know, it can be hard sometimes. You did it.
Hmm.
I mean, ironically, this is actually pairs with the project, but I'll say gospel music. You know, I have a gospel, there's some theme songs that I'm just like, you know, stand on his word, like hit play. And I'm like, it's my hype
Yeah.
song, you know? So I think this series as a whole, I mean, there are many just songs throughout it that really just carried me through. And I can say probably definitely carried a lot of us through, especially during our live performances. You know, Richard Smallwood's Journey to the Sky. Just those were really kind of, for me, things that encouraged me and I could lean on as they lifted me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Well, we certainly appreciate your time and the everything that we've learned here and heard here. It's definitely a blessing. Thank you both so much for being with us, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
wonderful. Thank you so much.